Wake up. No, seriously, wake up and look at the physics. The single most famous premise in sci-fi cinema, that machines would farm humans for energy, isn't just a plot hole. It is a violation of the second law of thermodynamics so egregious that if the machines actually tried it, their civilization would collapse in less than a month. You are not a Duracell. You are a leaky, inefficient, high-maintenance furnace that burns high-grade fuel to produce low-grade heat. Today, we are running a full audit on the matrix. We are going to calculate the exact wattage of a human soul, the calorie cost of keeping you in a pod, and why, if the grid goes down in real life, treating your body like a generator is the fastest way to die. I'm Tom. Welcome to the Survival Curriculum. Before we plug in, we need to establish the ground rules. We aren't just critiquing a movie. We are using the matrix as a case study for biological energy management. Because when the grocery stores close, you are going to face the exact same equation the machines did. Energy in versus energy out. If you get that math wrong, you starve. If you want to survive the thermodynamic bottleneck, you need to understand the physics of your own metabolism. If you're ready to unplug from the fantasy, make sure you're subscribed to the briefing. We're going deep into the numbers today. Imagine it. The year is 2199. You wake up gasping, submerged in viscous pink fluid. You are cold. Cables are threaded into your spine and arms. But let's look at the dashboard floating in your vision. The machine's telemetry. You are one of billions in the power plant. The ambient temperature of the pod is 20 degrees Celsius. Your body temp is 37. The machine is trying to harvest that thermal gradient. But there's a problem. A red light is blinking on your vitals monitor. It reads, net output negative. You aren't powering the city. You're barely keeping your own heart beating. The fluid around you isn't just conductive gel, it's a nutrient bath, and the pumps are screaming trying to push enough calories into your stomach to keep your internal furnace lit. You aren't a battery, you're a drain. In the movie, Morpheus holds up a copper-top battery and says, "The machines found all the energy they would ever need." It's a great line. It terrified a generation. It made us feel useful, powerful even. The assumption is that the human body is this mystic dynamo of bioelectricity. We instinctively believe it because we feel energetic after a coffee. We think if we run hard enough or get angry enough, we generate power. In a real survival scenario, this is the generator fallacy. I see preppers buying hand crank radios and pedal-powered generators, thinking they can replace the grid with sweat. They think, like the Matrix, that human output is a viable baseload power source. They are dead wrong. Let's look at the raw numbers. Basal metabolic rate. If you are lying in that pod, doing absolutely nothing, your body is burning about 80 to 100 watts. That is it. One old-school incandescent light bulb. That is your grand contribution to the machine empire. To get that 100 watts of heat and bioelectricity, the machine has to feed you. A standard human needs about 2,000 calories, or roughly 8.4 megajoules of energy per day, just to exist. Thermodynamically, this is a disaster. The machine has to grow the food, process the food, liquefy the food, and pump the food. If the machine's agriculture and processing takes even 101 watts of energy to create the food that gives you 100 watts of output, the machine is losing energy. It is literally cheaper for the machines to just set the food on fire and run a steam engine than to feed it to you. Here is where the physics gets insulting. The second law of thermodynamics dictates that energy conversion is never 100% efficient. When you eat food, you don't turn all of it into heat or electricity. You turn a huge chunk of it into waste, physical waste. Now the machine has to deal with billions of gallons of human sewage. Dealing with that waste requires filtration systems, pumps, and sanitation protocols. Those pumps run on electricity. Suddenly, your battery isn't just dim, it's leaking toxic sludge that costs energy to clean up. If the machines are smart enough to build anti-gravity ships, they are smart enough to know that a nuclear reactor doesn't poop. Using humans as power is like buying a Ferrari to tow a mule that pulls a car. Let's rerun the simulation. Maybe they don't want your electricity. Maybe they want your heat. The architect redesigns the pod. It's now a tight, insulated thermos. You are floating in a vacuum to prevent conductive loss, surrounded by thermal exchange coils. The goal is to capture every joule of body heat radiating off your skin. It's claustrophobic. It's hot. You are sweating into the recycling fluid. The machines are trying to run a Carnot engine, using the difference between your 98-degree body and the cold pipes to drive a turbine. But as you float there, feverish, the temperature difference drops. The pod heats up. The efficiency plummets. People try to apply this logic to their homes. I've seen designs for body heat warmed shelters where people huddle together to replace a wood stove. It works for survival warmth, sure, but for power? For doing work? No. The misconception is that heat is high-grade energy. It's not. Heat is the graveyard of energy. It is high-entropy, disorganized energy. Converting low-grade body heat back into high-grade electricity is brutally difficult. In the Matrix, the machines would need massive temperature gradients to get any real work out of you. They would have to freeze the outside of your pod to near absolute zero to make the turbine spin efficiently. The energy cost of the cooling system would instantly exceed the energy harvested from your skin. Let's audit the Carnot limit. Efficiency is determined by the temperature difference between the heat source, you, and the heat sink. Your body is roughly 310 Kelvin. A standard room is 293 Kelvin. The theoretical maximum efficiency of that engine is tiny, single digits. That means for every 100 calories of food the machine feeds you, it might get 5 or 6 calories of electricity back. 95% is lost. Compare that to a solar panel, 15 to 20% efficient. Compare it to a combined cycle gas turbine, 60% efficient. A human being is, mathematically, the worst designed power plant in the known universe. We are optimized for survival and reproduction, not voltage generation. The nail in the coffin is the fusion text in the movie script. The machines openly admit they have fusion technology. They have mastered the power of the stars. Do you know the energy density of fusion fuel? 1 kilogram of deuterium-tritium fuel can produce as much energy as millions of kilograms of coal. And yet, the movie wants us to believe they looked at a fusion reactor, shrugged, and said, "No thanks, I'd rather farm billions of fleshy, disease-prone mammals that require a constant slurry of liquefied dead people to function." It's an absurdity of scale. It's like owning a nuclear submarine, but choosing to power it by having the crew paddle out the windows. Enough about the movie, let's talk about you. The grid has been down for 3 weeks. It's winter, you are in your basement. You didn't store enough batteries, but you bought a high-end bicycle generator. You strap in. You need to charge a 12-volt car battery to run your ham radio setup. You start pedaling. At first, it feels fine. The resistance is manageable. But after 10 minutes, your quads are burning. You're sweating, losing water. Your breath fogs the air. The meter on the battery has barely moved. You are realizing, in real time, the difference between power and energy. You can produce power for a sprint, but you cannot sustain energy for a marathon. The mistake most survivors make is underestimating the caloric cost of manual labour. You think, I'll just work harder. But in a collapse, food is finite. If you spend 500 calories pedaling a bike to charge a radio that listens to static, you have to replace those 500 calories. If you are eating ration bars, that electricity just cost you $3 in freeze-dried food. You are converting expensive, hard-to-find chemical energy into cheap, fleeting electrical energy at a terrible exchange rate. It is bad economics. Unless that radio message saves your life immediately, you literally pedaled yourself closer to starvation. Here is the benchmark. An elite cyclist, doped to the gills and training for the Tour de France, can sustain about 400 watts for an hour. Maybe. You, the average Joe? You can sustain about 100 to 150 watts for an hour before you bonk. That is 0.15 kilowatt hours. In terms of grid electricity cost, that is about 2 cents worth of power. You just spent an hour of back-breaking labour to generate 2 pennies of electricity. Meanwhile, a single AA battery holds about 3 watt-hours. A small solar panel on a cloudy day will outproduce you without eating a single grain of rice. Biological energy is precious. It is high-density chemical storage designed to keep your brain and immune system running. Wasting it on mechanical tasks that a windmill could do is poor survival strategy. It gets worse. When you exhaust yourself physically, your immune system takes a hit. Your need for water skyrockets. In a grid-down scenario, clean water is work. You have to filter it, boil it, carry it. By sweating over that pedal generator, you just increased your water demand. Now you have to exert more energy to haul water to replace what you sweat out. It is a death spiral. The Matrix machines would just flush you and grow a new human. You don't have that luxury. Every calorie you burn on non-critical movement is a calorie you can't use to fight off an infection or stay warm when the furnace dies. So, if the battery theory is garbage, and the heat harvesting is a joke, why did the machines keep us? Why build the Matrix at all? This is where the thermodynamic audit gets interesting, and frankly, a lot scarier. There is one thing humans do better than any machine, even in 2199. We aren't power plants. We are processors. The original script for The Matrix, the one the studio executives thought was too intellectual for 1999 audiences, didn't have humans as batteries. It had humans as a neural network, a massive distributed biological computer. And that actually checks out. Shift the simulation, you're back in the pod. But the cables aren't just in your spine to drain power, they are mapped to your cortex. You are dreaming of a 1999 office job, but your brain is actually crunching data for the Machine City's stock market, or calculating firing solutions for their Sentinel drones. Your brain runs on about 20 watts of power. It is incredibly efficient at pattern recognition, creative problem solving, and fuzzy logic, things standard silicon chips struggle with. The machines aren't harvesting energy from you, they are investing energy into you, because your brain is a cheaper GPU than anything they can manufacture. You aren't a battery, you are a component, a fleshy, dreaming graphics card. This is harder for us to accept than the battery theory. We like to think of ourselves as sources of power. It's heroic. Being a spare part is dehumanizing. But in a survival context, this is the most valuable lesson. In a group survival situation, your value isn't your muscles. Muscles are cheap. An ox can pull a plough better than you. A solar panel can make power better than you. Your value is your grey matter. The ability to plan, to negotiate, to engineer, to improvise. That is the only resource that justifies the calorie cost of keeping a human alive in a resource-scarce environment. The human brain is a marvel of thermodynamics. It performs exaflops of computational operations on the energy equivalent of a dim LED bulb. To match the processing power of a human brain with current silicon technology, you would need a supercomputer that requires megawatts of power and a cooling river. The machines did the math. Growing a human brain takes 9 months and some mashed peas. Building an equivalent silicon brain takes rare earth metals, massive fabrication plants, and endless electricity. From an economic standpoint, using humans as wetware processors is actually plausible. We are self-healing, self-replicating, low-voltage computers. But there is a catch. Using biological processors is dangerous. Silicon does exactly what it is told. Biological brains dream, they rebel, they hallucinate. The matrix isn't a prison for your body, it's a sandbox for your mind to keep it from crashing while it works. The complication here is that to keep the processors stable, the machines had to create a simulation that was just miserable enough to feel real. If the world was perfect, the human brains rejected the program. They crashed. This tells us something profound about human psychology in survival. We are built for struggle. We degrade in paradise. We need a problem to solve, or we create our own. Let's bring this back to your prep. You want to avoid being a battery? Stop trying to muscle your way through survival. Picture 2 bunkers. Bunker A is run by a guy trying to be a generator. He's chopping wood 12 hours a day, hand cranking radios, hauling buckets. He is exhausted, caloric deficit spiralling, prone to injury. Bunker B is designed by a thermodynamist. It uses gravity-fed water systems. It relies on passive solar heating, letting the sun do the work, not the wood axe. The occupant spends his calories on security sweeps and planning. He sits still. He thinks. He conserves. Panic looks like activity. When disaster strikes, the urge is to do something. Run, build, dig, carry. It feels productive. But often it's just waste heat. In the military, they teach tactical patience. Sometimes the most energy-efficient move is to lay in a hide site and wait. If you are burning 3,000 calories a day prepping during the event, you are just accelerating your own starvation. You are acting like the matrix machine that spends more energy keeping the battery alive than the battery produces. Stop. Assess. Conserve. Memorize this hierarchy. At the top, fossil fuels. Gasoline has an energy density of about 44 megajoules per kilogram. It is liquid gold. Middle tier, batteries. Lithium ion is great, but still hundreds of times less dense than gas. Bottom tier, your glycogen stores. Using your body to move heavy objects or generate power should be the absolute last resort. If you have a chainsaw, use the gas. If you have a cart, use the wheels. Never spend biological energy if a chemical or mechanical alternative exists. Your calories are the only fuel source that can heal a wound or make a decision. Don't waste them turning a crank. The final complication is the supply chain. In the Matrix, the machines have a tube that feeds you. In reality, once the supermarket shelves are bare, the fuel for your biological engine becomes the rarest commodity on Earth. You can store gas, you can recharge batteries, but you cannot easily store 10 years of food in a way that remains portable and nutrient-dense. This makes human energy the most volatile, risk-prone energy sector in your survival portfolio. Every time you exert yourself unnecessarily, you are borrowing against a bank account that might not get a deposit for a very long time. So, does the Matrix hold up? Physically? No, it's garbage. But metaphorically, it's a warning. The machines saw humans as a resource to be consumed, and their system was doomed to fail because of it. If you treat yourself as a resource to be burned, if you treat your body like a machine that can just keep outputting power without consequence, you will fail too. Survival isn't about output, it's about efficiency. It's about doing the maximum amount of living with the minimum amount of caloric burn. We laugh at the copper top scene now. We know better. But look around. How many systems in your life are currently draining your energy for a return that doesn't cover the cost? How much of your daily output is just waste heat? The Matrix isn't just a movie about robots, it's a documentary about resource mismanagement. You have a limited amount of energy in your biological battery before the clock runs out. The question isn't whether the machines are real, the question is, who is running your control panel? But there is one scenario we haven't calculated. We assumed the machines wanted power or processing. What if they wanted something else entirely? What if the biological component wasn't the fuel, but the filter? There is a theory that the human nervous system is the only thing capable of collapsing quantum wave functions in a way AI cannot replicate. If that is true, then you aren't a battery and you aren't a chip. You're the observer. And if the grid goes down tomorrow and the AI systems go dark, they might not come for your electricity. They might come for your eyes. You need to be ready for the things that don't make thermodynamic sense. Secure your spot for the next briefing. You survived the simulation. Now survive the reality. Equip yourself at the official supply depot. Because if the world is going to end, you might as well look prepared.